Mic test 1 2 3. Mic test 1 2 and 3. All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages. It is your host, Samurai Kit Kat, and we are here again in the artist chair. We are going to be doing some artwork. Imagine that. Imagine that. So I'm going to adjust my microphone real quick here. Get it out of my face so that way I can look down at my tablet and look at the gloriousness that is Kitsukai. Kitsukai, yes, 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 yes. Oh my goodness, I'm very proud of this artwork. Is it the best I've ever done? I don't know. Subject to personal perception. Um, so let's go ahead and get this guy, foxy guy in the folder. I'm going to call it the Foxy Guy folder. Foxy Guy folder. There we go. And we're just going to click those layers and just drag them into the folder. And then now he is one. He is one with the Force. So we have a little bit of life art lesson going on here today. We're going to select our bad boy. I'm going to move him over just a scotch. Just a scotchy. Just a scotchy. We don't want to lose any of that artwork. I don't really want to make him any smaller. I mean, I guess we could. We could. I think probably the best thing would be to make the heads a little smaller. Because this area here essentially is going to be a sitting pose. We're going to be doing a new pose. This will be the final pose for the reference artwork here. And I have chosen to do a seiza. Seiza is a Japanese term for essentially sitting. But seiza is used in martial arts. And when I practiced Iaido, seiza is where you start in Iaido every time. That is your starting zone. You don't start your swordsmanship in the standing position or anything like that. When you get to the standing position, I know this is some Iaido learning moment too. When you get to the standing position in Iaido, you have already conducted your first cut, and essentially you are preparing yourself for multiple enemies or to finish off your opponent. That is really the only times that you are standing in Iaido, along with, of course, after you have conducted yourself in your cuts and you've lived through the encounter, then you will also conduct Chiburi. And Chiburi is basically blood shedding, or what is blood flick. I can't remember what the exact word is, but basically you flick the sword off to your side and you flick the blood of your enemy off the side. Like I said, even though it sounds very brutal, it is a beautiful martial art, and I really love it. So if you don't know what Iaido is, it's spelled Iado, Iaido, and look it up. Just look it up. It is such a beautiful martial art, and really makes you become one with your katana and your wakizashi, and so on and so forth. So, needless to say, Kitsukai is a practitioner of Iaido, and so therefore I want to portray him in such. So obviously, we last stream, Ebony, hello, Ebony. So good to see you. So good to see you. Or well, I guess see your texts. And Ebony says, good to see you're actually committing to more Kitsukai art. Of course, I am enveloping myself into my persona, as I was just explaining, giving the personality. We last stream, we did a static dynamic pose, which is this right here, where it's not boring. This pose is not boring. He's not just standing there like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. There's just enough motion with this stance that it's nice to look at. It's nice to look at. And then, of course, we did our two heads, a three-quarter view and a front-facing view. And then, like I'm saying today, with a little bit of lesson, and we're going to have some lessons today, some hot takes maybe. I know, sit down, buckle up, a little bit of hot take action going on. We are going to put Kitsukai in a Saiza sitting pose. So Saiza, it's hard to actually explain that because Saiza is what it is. Like it is sitting in Japanese, but it's not. It's a very special sitting position. So the lesson of the day here is something that I think a lot of artists probably go back and forth on. Maybe even the general public kind of go back and forth on what they believe would be correct and not correct. And so the first thing is I need references. This is the first time. Sure, let's just get it out of the way. Sure, I could probably fludge through. With these poses and things like that, but really I want to be correct, and in order for you to do so, you must have references. Ebony says, I got Photoshop to try and draw Ebony earlier today, actually, but the head frame circle was too freaking hard, so I gave up. Hey, you know what, though? Good on you for trying, and I say don't stop trying. It's something that should be relaxing, something that you have complete free time to release your mind, to release your energy, and just go for it. And when you hit your frustration, because clearly you hit frustration, that's fine to give up. That's fine to set it aside. Art should never, ever be frustrating. Absolutely never be frustrating. And who knows, when I'm doing all this artwork, there might be a point in time where I'm just like, you know what, folks? I got to step away from this because I don't know what I'm doing. Or, we'll research it together, whatever the case may be. So to continue forward, posing, especially very specific posing, as an artist, you really do want to portray that pose as best as possible. And so this is the first lesson of the day. And again, like I said, artists and the general public are going to be a little torn on whether it's right or wrong. So the first example that I want to pull up in my screen shots is going to be this one here. Let me go ahead. I know I have a separate screen. Actually, I have a TV. I have a 55-inch TV that I play my computer on and stuff, and then I have a Canvas 13 Pro tablet. So I guess if anybody ever wondered what kind of hardware I'm rocking over here, this is it. Let's see here. Ebony says, I was even watching tutorials, but couldn't understand half the crap because they were going too fast through it. Anyways, enough about that. And that actually goes, you're experiencing what I believe, Ebony, you're experiencing what a lot of beginner artists go through, especially when they do self-research like myself. A lot of these artists just go too fast. And that being said, it's hard for someone who's never even done art or conducted art to be able to, just have that energy and that momentum and the motivation to continue forward. So I'm right there with you. I've been down that road, Ebony. Every artist has. So we understand your plight. But never give up. So with this, this is the first example, right? This is Saiza. And this is a very martial arts stance. Japanese, of course, just as far as culture is concerned, have a modified Saiza where essentially you're sitting on your heels. That's essentially being comfortable. Sometimes they'll put a pillow underneath their rump and then straddle that pillow, and then that way they can sit for a very, very long time. If you're not used to this pose here, this is actually a little strenuous. You are stretching muscles on the top of your legs here. I don't know what the specific muscle is, but needless to say, that is painful until you get used to it. And of course, your ankles are also hyperextended. There's a lot of hyperextension with this, and so it's not a very comfortable pose. Needless to say, what are we getting at with the whole idea of what's wrong and right and so on and so forth? So the question to be presented is if I copy this pose, not the persons or the image or anything like that, just the pose, do you think that's appropriate for me to do? Such as, and to elaborate on this, I don't actually. I think I'm going to have to go ahead and open this up so that way I can mess with it. Pictures, screenshots, and open that up. Okay, so we opened up this, and oh, look at that! Our first ban of the morning. I like good bans early in the morning. Good old computers trying to get me to get viewers and followers. I think I will get views and followers with my own merit. I don't need computers telling me what I should and should not do. Ebony says, I could definitely see him in that position. Sorry if Kitsukai isn't actually intended to be completely male. No, he's male, 100% male. I think I mentioned before, and you probably caught it as well, that I said he has kind of a feminine male body, just a very slender build. But as far as, definitely a he, him. So no problems there. No problem there. So as we're getting to the question here, is it fine for me to copy this pose? Obviously, we are not copying the likeness of this person's whatsoever. We are just utilizing the pose that they're in. And so essentially, I would draw a circle, the neck, shoulders, arm, elbow, hand, arm, elbow, hand. Do like a quasi chest, kind of like what I usually do. And then the pelvis area, leg, this would be the calf, and then clearly the foot, and then leg, calf. This would be a little strange here. There we go. That's better. And essentially that's what this would be. And what I would do, now granted I can't move this over, but I'm just giving to the point. So if I were to move this wireframe over here, do you think that is okay? Now, the answer to this is it is completely fine. And now, again, this is where, like I said, some people might even have controversies with this, but this is completely fine. Reason being is this is a real human being. We are not capturing the likeness of this person, so that way, as far as like obtaining permission to use their likeness and stuff like that, we're not doing that. We are doing a natural human pose that anybody on this face of this earth can accomplish this pose in some way, shape, or form. And so, yes, this is perfectly fine. This does not go into the realm of Creative Commons. This would only go into the realm of consent if we were to try and use this man's likeness. So if we just transposed and did complete artwork of this man, obviously to me that you should have permission for that. But for the most part, it is what it is. Let's see here. Ebony says, for the sake of a few minutes, it shouldn't even matter if it's a legit picture. Understand. Yeah, absolutely. If it is a legit picture and you're just trying to grab the pose for it and you're using it as reference, even if you're looking at it, because obviously even in accredited universities, the people look at a nude person's and, of course, proceed to draw them. Now, granted, there's all sorts of consent with that, but that's what I was kind of getting at. There's consent when it comes to real people. The next example is the next screenshot here, which is this one. This is still a form of Siza. This is just an example I found. Unfortunately, I don't know who the artist is, or else I'd make credits or something like that. This is a straight Google search. I probably could get more details, but this is a learning moment. And so therefore, we are actually going to get into the other thing. So this is consensual, again, only if you are trying to plan to draw the likeness of the person. This is when you step into the realm of Creative Commons. So when we have something like this in front of us, I'm actually going to switch over to red because red's going to be a lot easier to see. Okay. When we switch over to using someone else's artwork, I think this is the biggest divide between the general public and other artists and just people in general of what they possibly think is wrong and right. So then the question again, the same question is presented. If I were to draw my circle, my neck, my shoulders, arm, elbow, hand, basic chest, and then my ball bearing there for the stomach, and this one's kind of easier because the calf kind of goes off more straight, and then the feet should be like this, but of course they don't really matter because you don't see them anyways. And so if I transpose this over to here to start drawing that pose, is that okay? You expect Ebony says, you expect people to credit anything? I know. I know. Expectations always must be at their lowest, no matter what you do in life. So I understand. Yeah, no, I guess I don't have any expectations. However, I try to set an example as best as I possibly can. I'm not perfect either. So, is this okay? Yes is the answer. It is okay because, again, it is a pose. There is nothing wrong with this wireframing that I've done, and I have not captured the likeness of this artwork. Here's the big difference, though. So let's just say I really like this this girl or this character, whatever you wish to say, and I want to get a little bit more detailed. Maybe I like the eyes. Maybe I like the chin. Maybe I like the hair. Maybe hair's like really cool. Maybe I like to do hair stuffs and stuff. And you start getting into, as you're seeing here, kind of like a tracing kind of thing going on, and eventually you're just like, you know what? I just like this whole thing, and you start doing the whole thing, right? You just start redrawing the girl essentially. Is that right? No, it's not. That is absolutely essentially just taking someone else's artwork. You are not doing anything differentiating from what we see here to what you were about ready to draw. What would be okay is, let's just say, like eye design. And the big word there is design, meaning like I really like how her eyes are, so I just want to emulate that, right, as best as possible. And just a really good eye design. I really like it. And so, is this okay? Obviously, it is. It is okay. Because so long as this eyeball that we chose for design is really, and it's still not perfect, right? It's not the same type of thing. It's just a likeness. And then like the hair is completely different. You got like a spiky hairdo, and then maybe the character that you're having has a big old scar across the eye. Perfectly fine. It is absolutely fine to do those things. As artists, and this is coming from an artist, right? We gain inspiration from others' artwork. There's just certain things, certain styles. Maybe I like the finger construction, so I want to kind of learn a little bit about the fingers, and so I might draw like some basic shapes and be like, okay, so this is how this person's came up with the hand shape and stuff like that, right? Perfectly fine. Especially when we're dealing with human anatomy. When we're dealing with human anatomy, Creative Commons is absolutely perfectly fine. Like as far as any, and what's the word I'm looking for? Any anatomy of the human body, we can replicate that. We don't need an artist's permission or anything of that nature. I can take this hand like this and bring it over here and use that hand. A hand is a hand. It's when you start getting into things like I said before, which is like the clothing. Clothing is a style choice. You can choose clothing. And with that, you can also choose what you do with your hair. And for some instances, of course, obviously you choose how to stylize your person's face because everyone's face is different. And so when you're capturing these likenesses with hair and eyes and everything else like that, that's when you start copying other people's art. Ebony says, and once again, this is exactly why I got commissioned art. Even for my reference sheet, it's just too complicated. I'm glad I'm proving your points and your state of mind, Ebony. I'm glad I'm right there. So basically, the gist of this is that if you're doing it for the pose, perfectly fine. If you're grabbing an idea or two from this image because you really like this image, you really like this kind of style of art, again, perfectly fine, so long as when your finished artwork does not look like this, then you're fine. There is a percentage. Artists will say there's a percentage that can match. Like some are like, 50% of it can look like the other artwork, but the other 50% must be something completely different. Like I said, this is where we start to kind of get into muddy water or gray areas. And then the last example. Oh boy, this is my hot take. This is absolutely my hot take. Where's my open folder? The last example is this. Obviously, this is Goku, right? And everyone recognizes Goku. This is a famous figure. This is a famous cartoon, whatever you wish to say. Practically a celebrity in the anime world. If I capture the likeness of Goku in really any way, even matching hair, like just Goku's hair, you're probably going to get ripped apart. They're going to be like, what are you doing? Why did you create this character and put Goku's hair on it? There's certain points in artwork where you just simply you just can't touch this. And it even goes down to the pose. Dare I say that this is even, if I were to, draw my circle and I got my chest here and I got my arm and then my elbow and hand and then, my other arm, hand, and so on and so forth, right? And I do the Goku, this is Goku's stance. This is something that if someone, especially aficionados in the anime world, which there's a lot of them, especially with Dragon Ball Z, and I draw a custom character, let's just say like none of my character matches Goku. Like the hair is different, the face is different, maybe the styling, right? The styling, like the muscles, how things are structured in Dragon Ball Z, whatever the case may be, people are going to call me out on this. It's going to be absolutely like what do you. It might be okay to some degree, but for the most part, again, this is my hot take. When a character that has been drawn for multiple times is owned, this is an IP, right? This is IP. This is a company owns this. An artist owns this. And these styles and poses and things, I will go out on a limb and say, you cannot touch this in any way, shape, or form. This is a big no-no. I don't care who you are. Don't touch it. It's almost like sacrilege. Just don't touch it. On top of that, just as Ebony has said, I suppose it's a copyright example. Exactly. This is the realm of copyright. This is the realm of Creative Commons. And then again, this right here is 100% fine, except for if you plan to actually draw this man, you're in the realm of consent when it comes to real people. So there's your levels of when you choose something to use as a reference or an image or something like that, you have to be careful in some regards. And really, to me, this is common sense, right? I think everything I said was pretty common sense here. This is untouchable. This is okay so long as your finished product doesn't really look like this. And this is perfectly fine. Do what you need to do. There's really nothing, even the whole likeness thing. I'm just kind of going out on a pretty far thin limb, in my personal opinion, a very far thin limb, in saying that if you actually wanted to draw this man's likeness, you need consent. Uh, I, bleh. That's me. So, needless to say, that was one of our art lessons today about when using references. That was an art lesson and a half. Absolutely. Um, so that being said, we are going to use the real human example because when it comes to martial arts and things like that, the human body is going to emulate, obviously, this is just such a Captain Obvious moment. The human body is going to emulate exactly the pose as it needs to be and is as intended. And so therefore, we are going to say, we're going to open up, let's see, I think we can go insert. I think it's insert is what I need, I'm not sure. Ebony says, I'd say unless you're the actual designer or designers involved with the studio, you're allowed to use Goku, but anybody else, nope. Completely agree. 100%. I'm right there with you. Again, that was my hot take. I understand that you're on the same page as with me, Ebony, but there might be, obviously, there are people out there that could give two shits less about that. And one of my biggest pet peeves is when I go to cons and I clearly see that someone is using Dragon Ball Z IP or Pokemon or anything like that, and they're selling it. That's a big issue. If you're using it to promote your artwork and say, look what kind of styling I can do, and you don't plan to use it as far as like the actual art itself to sell it, but you're like selling yourself, and there's no, basically what I'm getting at is so long as there's no monetary value involved with you drawing your version of Goku, just Ebony says, just definitely don't mention Mario as a reference though. Yeah, that's a no. That's a no. That's a no right there. But I just cannot stand people that essentially do fan art of Goku, Vegeta, and any IP. It doesn't matter what it is. One Piece, Bleach, and they sell that fan art. And of course, people buy it because, well, that's the whole point. There's fans for it, and it's an easy sell. It's technically copyright infringement, and I will never go down that road. And I'm also too proud of an artist that clearly, in my personal opinion, I can do just fine with coming up with my own characters and my own things. And to me, that's much more prideful than just taking an IP that everybody loves and enjoys, or even Pikachu, actually. Yeah, exactly right, Ebony. Like taking Pikachu and putting rapper clothes, or putting Pikachu in like a cute poncho or something like that, right? And then selling it to somebody. I don't agree with that. I say go for it as far as fan art, and then showing people like, hey, look what I did with this Pikachu. But that's as far as it should go. Don't put it on a shirt. Don't put it on shoes. Don't put it on a poster. And don't try to sell it, no matter what. Hot take moment. All right, so going on with the art lesson, the actual art today. We are going to, I think maybe it's file, import. There we go. Import image. As you've seen, there's a couple of things that we can do. We can do open or import. If you do open, Clip Art Studio is going to, as you've seen there, open up a brand new tab, and it's not going to put it on your current artwork. You need to, if you want to add one of those screenshots that I showed you into your actual thing that you're drawing, you need to do, let's see, where did it go? Import, image, and then of course find your image. And then as you see here, now that image is actually in my artwork. And the best part about this is, Ebony says, that's not a hot take. That's just common sense and very basic copyright law. You tell that to the people that sell Goku artwork at a con next time. Obviously, I don't indulge in any sort of aggressive or abrasive behavior, or just try to start shit to start shit. I believe in karma, and that at some point in time, their gravy train will end, and it'll be all good. So, the great thing about importing artwork or importing images and things like that into your canvas is that, well, as you see here, I'm actually able to figure out my sizing and how big we want to go here. I do have to keep in mind that we do have a fairly elongated neck as far as compared to a human's. So my head is probably going to be up here a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to play with this a little, some. But as far as size goes, I kind of like this, and I like the fact that if I put the knees in line with the feet, this essentially would be on the same plane. And I feel like this would also be the correct proportion as to how Kitsukai is standing. So this is, again, the biggest benefit to bringing an image into your canvas for references and so on. Now, here's another, I guess you could say, something that you can do. I don't know how to, I'm having a lot of thought process problems, so do bear with me. The easiest thing to do here, you have two options. You can drag this image somewhere, right, and then go about your business, and we'll have to create a layer here real quick. There we go. And just kind of, again, copy what you see, right? That's one way to do this. I prefer an easier. I like things to be easy. I like things to be simple. So we're actually going to take this image, put it back where I kind of had it, right? And so I already made a layer, mind you. So we have a layer above this image. And so this, with most other things, we have an opacity meter, right? And so we can make this image fade out of existence. Fade out of existence. And as you know, I like to go to 20%. Ebony says, that's definitely one way the furry community is better. Yes, you may have a fursona similar to someone else, but they're never direct copies or quote-unquote stolen. They all have different design changes, lore, partial, full body, and etc. And I agree with you, Ebony. I'm right there with you. Like, you could have the same species, right? And it's kind of like the same thing as humans, right? There's a bunch of humans, but humans look different, humans act different, so on and so forth. And so that also translates into furrydom, of where in the furry community, where you have a bunch of dogs or a bunch of wolves and cats and so on and so forth, but just like yourself, Ebony, I think you actually have a very unique fursona, and it's really cool, and it's something that, sure, maybe there is something similar to that, but not quite like yours, and that and then I'm just driving home your point, which is the furry community, I think, has a much more sense of uniqueness, of individuality, that you're rarely, if ever, going to run across things that are the same or direct copies, or, as you said, quote-unquote stolen. So we made this image transparent, essentially. And what we'll do is, as you see here, my line work is very prevalent. It's very visible. We can draw on this dude, and he's just gonna have to sit there and take it. And now, that being said, the reason why we want that opacity down is exactly what I said. We need to be able to draw on top of, because this is really the way that a lot of people need to get used to poses. Again, thinking of a pose and not having a reference is very difficult to do, especially execution. And then looking at a pose and trying to copy it is also difficult to do, because you're going to be constantly, as the example, I'll just go ahead and do it, right? I think the head is going to be here. That's easy, right? The head's going to be there. Neck is going to be about that long. Let's see here. His shoulders, they kind of droop down a little bit. They kind of go away from the head, so like his shoulders should be right about there. As you can see, it's all guesswork, right? This is all guesswork. And it requires me to do a lot of work, in my opinion. That's a lot of work. Go back to opacity there. Ebony says the closest I've gotten was a girl at a con once who had the same sort of gothic aesthetic as me, but a completely different species. I mean, that's cool. And then, I mean, at that point, I mean, you're just best friends, right? At that point, you're just best friends. It's good stuff. But no, we don't need to do all that work. It's absolutely unnecessary. Again, personal opinion here. Just go ahead and draw over the pose here. Now, granted, again, we have to also understand that what we have going on is a cartoon, and so the head and stuff are going to be. And funnily enough, we can even make this even easier on myself, and we might do this, which is taking this reference because we are forward-facing, right? And this reference is forward-facing. So all I have to do is do exactly what I did down here with this gentleman and make this head transparent and then just copy my own artwork, right? Copy my work onto this pose. Ebony says, not friends, but we did talk for a while at least. Well, that's good. That's good. So, and this is another benefit to drawing your persona or any character that you really want to work with in multiple points of view and poses, because then, as we just seen, I can use this to my benefit, and it's less work I have to do. You know how many style or how many poses and things like Goku has? It's almost limitless. You could pretty much just make Goku in any way, shape, or form and choose any pose, and you're going to have the back of his head, you're going to have the side profile, you're going to have three-quarter view, you're going to have jumping in the air. I'm telling you, the more and more that you draw your character, the easier and easier your life is going to be when, and heck, who knows, I might want to transpose this entire thing that we did the other day into a scene of some sort and just not have to change anything whatsoever except for put clothing on and stuff. So there you go. I know I get sidetracked a lot. I go off the rails, but it's all learning, right? This is a lot of stuff to take in, especially if you might have questions, or if you're even remotely interested in doing something like this. It's a lot to take in, and so I'm trying to be as descriptive and take my time as possible. Some people don't have patience for this. Art is not a fast thing to do, okay? So the more patience and the more time we take, the better. So this being said, I'm still just going to follow the simple body plan here. So we're just going to just do a circle, and then the neck is right here. And then as far as like the shoulder blades, now he does have a gi. This is what this is called, a gi. And gis typically kind of stand off your shoulders a little bit, right? So this is more of like a clothing thing, and we're not there. We're not doing anything clothing. So I have to kind of imagine, I still have to kind of imagine with this, where the shoulders are going to be. I can't really see them too well because he's wearing white clothing. So I'm going to up the opacity just a little bit so that way I can actually get a better idea of where the joints would be on this pose. Ebony says, I am still interested in starting art, but like I said, I probably couldn't commit enough since it annoyed the shit out of me. Again, just take your time. Take your time. And also, don't force yourself either, as far as like, it was fantastic to hear that you even gave it a shot the other day. And, if you don't go back to it for 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, just do it whenever you feel like it. Art is a feeling, and that's the whole idea. So I believe the shoulders are right about here. They're about equal distance. Another good thing about this particular pose is that if we draw a line down the middle like this, right? Essentially, it's the same on either side. So really, when I go to actually draw my character, I'm going to do pretty much what I did up here, and I'm going to use the symmetry tool. And that's going to make my life even more easy. So that's again kind of knowing your tools with your the program, the software that you're using, and using those tools to help you make your artwork easier. I think tools can be definitely intimidating. I'm sure Ebony, you kind of already told me that the tools that you use in these programs are a little intimidating, and they absolutely are, especially if you don't know how to use them, or more likely you don't have somebody there to guide you through the process. There we go. Very nice, very nice. And then I am going to draw a square for the hands. And now, as you see, we're kind of off center here because like his arm actually kind of like does like a little bend. I'm not too crazy, like because we haven't got to our cylinder parts yet. And really drawing a square here is a little much right now, but needless to say, I like to draw a square for the hands because that's really what your hand is. It's a square. Your hand is a square. And then what this allows me to do is like preemptively make wire fingers. And again, I can use the symmetry tool here, right? And Saiza, mind you, with Japanese etiquette, if you notice his hands, his pinky and his ring finger on both hands are essentially the same space apart. When you are trained in martial arts, especially to be proper in martial arts, your hands and your fingers and the layout of your feet, if you notice his feet here too, they're nearly identical. That is proper martial artsmanship. That is proper etiquette when you are conducting poses like this, such as which this is called Saiza. When you are in Saiza, you are pretty much a symmetrical being, and those that have mastered the martial arts will pretty much be. You could run a line right down the middle of them, like I did before, and they'll look exactly the same. So chest-wise, I like to use those loose triangles and stuff, right? We did this with Kitsukai's standing static dynamic static form, and then I usually draw a ball bearing here, and then we go with the the pelvis waist area. And since we're using an actual like human form, and we're not going off memory here, some of this is going to be a little different than what we did up here with Kitsukai's standing pose. Ebony says that pose would definitely be easier to pull off with the quote unquote human legs. So good choice. Thank you. I do my research, and I don't know if I was having a conversation with Uzi. I don't think I had this conversation with you, Ebony, which was I would really like if once the fursona and the fursuit is completed, to actually do a martial arts demonstration at a furry convention or just any convention in my fursuit as Kitsukai. I think it'd be really cool. I know that furries, they have dance contests and essentially quote unquote costume contests, but I would say fursona contests, and I think a martial arts one would be pretty neat. And obviously the knee is right here, right? So that joint is right there. And likewise that joint is right there. And then the calf goes off here, and then the foot ends right there. So we can just do a small circle, because as we go away from something, right? As we we have to pretend. Now we don't really have to pretend here because we have the form, right? But his horizon is like right there, and as you see with a horizon, if he was sitting in a room on a mat, the mat would do something like this. So where it gets smaller in the back and it gets larger in the front because it's coming towards you. And so keeping this in mind, anytime that you go away, so you're going away from that point there, things are going to be smaller. We're not going to make a giant joint back here because it doesn't make sense. We have a small joint. So just make sure that your joints, as you see here, these are pretty uniform. Why are they uniform? Because they're the same distance away. His arms aren't in any different distances. So these ball joints and everything that we're doing is pretty much relatively the same. Nothing too crazy. This is where things change, where you have to shorten up your lines. Clearly, this line here is much shorter than this line here, but if we look at this leg here, they're relatively the same size. There you go. There's another lesson for you. So many lessons. Ebony says, yeah, there are a few dance competitions. The only thing about them I am still surprised by is that I have never seen anybody's head or paws fall off, even on partials. Yeah, I have seen a few dance contests myself, as I clearly, because I have knowledge of them. And yeah, I'm also surprised that parts don't go flying off places. Just really well made suits, very well made suits. And then again, a small joint right there. And then since the foot is kind of tucked, we're just going to follow a triangle. And there we go. Now, what we'll do is bloop. There you go. And so there's your wireframe, and it looks really weird, right? This looks really strange. And if you think about it, me personally, I would never think to draw a wireframe like this to get the pose that I want. This is such an awkward, especially when you get down here, right? That is awkward. That is very strange to draw. But we have our reference, and so we can. Ebony says, if the actual body came off, though, there would be questions. Yeah, I would say yeah. That questions and a quick call to 911. Someone is hurt. Someone is hurt. But since we have this reference that we can go back and forth between, when we start doing our cylinders, which is going to be very soon, we can verify thickness and so on and so forth. Let's see, what do we want to do? I guess that would be the next thing to do. So we're going to put this at 20%. So now we have our pose. Very quick. Very quick. This is that drawing a pose utilizing someone's real body and stuff like that should be a very fast process. You're basically just doing a mapping out of things. And now there are plenty of people who do different type of mapping out. There's some people, make a new layer. Just to give an example, some people do squares, right? That's fine. Some people do squares. Some people do like loose circles and stuff. Like I guess you could say like a loose square. There's a lot of ways to do it. It's just however you yourself are going to be able to identify those body parts and all that good stuff. So delete that, bring that back. I'm going to hide you for now. And so at this point, though, I've seen this enough where I have an idea. And so I'm going to, at this point, do my cylindrical artwork on top of this wireframe, and of course try to make my my dummy, my doll. So create a new layer. It's at 100% of opacity, of course. And I mean, we're just going to keep going over top of everything. You always want to go over top of pretty much all things that you do. And sometimes you might think, well, this is pretty redundant, but there might be a line that you draw here that you want to keep. And of course we're facing completely forward, so it's pretty much just a middle. Then we have our neck. Kind of gave him a long neck anyways, so this might work out for Kitsukai. We'll see. And as you see, I round this off down here. Why did I round this off? It's because it's a cylinder. All right, it's a cylinder. We're not doing, let me go back a few sketches. We're not doing a flat surface, because as you can kind of tell, we lose that 3D space. We lose that depth. Like the head already alone is very 2D, but the neck area and things like that, they are 3D. And so when we start to do curves, the more curves that you can do in your body planning, the better everything's going to be. Absolutely, the better everything's going to be. So as far as this neck is concerned, we have the traps, right? Traps kind of go like this. And if we use this, let's see here. So his neck is pretty thick. And so his traps will go like this, right? But we're still kind of in this weird wire phase, so I don't really care about thickness of the neck right now. We're going to do that when we get to more details. So essentially, I'm going to just do a pseudo curve. This curve right here, by the way, is very advanced line art. Very advanced. You come down, up, and around. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to do it a few times. Up, down, and around. Down and around. And we're going to do the same on this side. Down and around. Right? We just want representation. Representation. That's all we want. So these are the shoulders. Get those joints back in there. Get those joints back in there. Ebony says, but yeah, thinking about it, your martial arts show concept would be something that's been rarely seen. Yeah, and I'm sure there's probably been a few furries that have maybe dressed up in exactly this, right? Dressed up in karate gear and have done things and done poses and stuff, but I don't know. I don't think I've actually seen a furry do martial arts. All right, so, and then now the clavicle, fun word, you can go ahead and say that, clavicle. The clavicle is right there, right at the base of this neck. And essentially, this is a joint, mind you. If you did not know this, I thought it was kind of trippy, but that bone that's right at the two bones that separate right at the base of your neck in the front there, those are joints. If you move your shoulders and stuff around, they move around too. Might be a little freaky if you never realized that before. But of course, they go out to the sides, right? Just like that. And this, however, that I'm doing is like a little unnecessary. We don't have to really do this. The reason why I'm doing this is because I get an idea of where my pectoral muscles, where my pectoral muscles kind of start. And again, we're just going to draw that loose shield. It's like a shield. I say it's a shield. And then, of course, we draw a perspective on anything that can twist or have motion on these planes of joints, right? So these joints can move in these directions, right? It's almost like a 360. This is why we do not put perspective lines like this on joints. It's completely useless. Again, if you didn't see that, this right here, right there. We do not put perspective lines on joints. Those joints are designed to work in a 360-degree space. And so there's no need for it. On top of that, these joints are inside of your body, so you're not going to see them anyways. But you will see a face, and so we need to know where that face is turned. We can even change this really easily. All I have to do, we'll go back a few steps to get these arrows out of here. All we have to do, let's get a little bit size bigger. There we go. Bigger erasing utensil. To change where Kitsukaya is looking, I just have to make a curve and then another curve. See? We just changed where he's looking. Just with 2 lines, just 2 curves. And now Kitsukaya is looking this way. Well, maybe we want him to look the other way. Well, we'll just do this. And now Kitsukaya is looking this way. And so anything that is visible, anything that is visible or would be visible in a nude sense, perspective lines are absolutely necessary because it just helps you plan out your body. Ebony says full body ones like me would probably 99% of the time wouldn't do it. Even if you're used to the heat in the suit, doing something like martial arts would put you on the verge of heat stroke. I guarantee you would. I do plan to develop a fan or AC system, even though I pretty much am going to have a very much a partial fursuit. But needless to say, I plan to definitely have some sort of cooling system installed. I had cooling systems installed in my Stormtrooper armor, and so therefore, and the reason why I'm going back and forth on this line is because this kind of represents where the pectorals are going to be, right? That was more of a breast than a pectoral. There we go. But yeah, so it's kind of just an idea. Most of the time, if you just hang around in the middle, you'll be all right. Many of your perspective lines, obviously, there's a center of gravity, and there's a center inside that object, and this is kind of the midway point. This is like an eyeballing thing. Maybe the true center is actually right here, or the true center is up there. It doesn't matter so long as you're close. So finding the true center of your perspective lines, and of course this changes depending on where your perspective goes. So the center would be right there now, and we're looking off and actually down a little bit. But I obviously don't draw these circles because I just don't need them. But maybe if it helps you, there you go. And then we have our first true cylinder. How about that? First true cylinder. There we go. Let's draw that a little better. Nice. And then since we're going downwards, we're going to do a down curve. Ebony says the same Stormtrooper armor that the kids bashed you with. Yes, my Stormtrooper armor is weathered. It is absolutely weathered. And then, of course, we draw our joint. And then we could, if you want to put perspective lines on this, you can, right? Like I said, that's what you should do. Anything that could possibly be visible with the eye should have perspective lines on it. So how would you draw the perspective lines? Well, we kind of already gave a hint right here with this downward curve. That means that downward curve is essentially going to continue its path on any of these cylinders that we do. So typically, whatever you end your cylinder with, whether it be a curve or a flat surface or a circle, right? That's how your lines are going to go. And as we see, we just made another cylinder, just even with lines that are going in the same direction as your circle is. Of course, if you are using a full circle, you can go off in this direction. You could go off in this direction. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. So you can draw a line through it to keep that line for your wireframe. And then since your arm is going down, we are also drawing a downward curve. And then now this cylinder is actually coming towards us a little bit, right? And the reason being is because, well, his lap is in front of his body. So we are going to draw a little bit bigger of a cylinder here, or start of a cylinder, a curve. But however, as we learned in the previous art show here, is that your forearms taper. So you essentially have this going on with your forearms. So translating that to this, we are actually going to do a slight taper. And then now with this being attached to like the hand, we could and we should be doing an up at the very least an upward facing curve. And the reason being is because we really should be drawing a full circle, because this cylinder is coming towards us. And then likewise, your perspective lines will be going in the upward direction. There you go. And then another joint, which you can draw this if you want. But now we're going to draw the hand. And now this is one of those details, right? This is where we're starting to get into detailed stuff. This is probably your first big hurdle, which is hands. Luckily, we have a pretty easy outfit. We are going to reference the actual hand again. And it looks like I kind of went off the rails on a crazy train a little bit. That's fine. We can fix it. That's why we still have a reference available. So since we're trying to be a little bit more defined, there we go. And so we actually have his thumb. His thumb is coming out like this. All right. So if we want to translate that without really looking at it, we just start the thumb here. And of course, if you look at your own thumb, the base of your thumb is the widest part, and then it typically tapers a little bit, right? So it'd be something like this to a degree. Obviously, with the real human body, you really don't get that kind of perspective here. But so long as the base of your thumb is at the widest point, you're fine. You're fine. And then so he has a knuckle there, and then it kind of just goes off and does its thing. And this is part of these references. Just go back to him. Don't be afraid to go back to him. I'm clearly doing it, right? And so he has his joint there. We can come up a little bit, and then his thumb does one of these numbers. Okay. So, and I kind of already did this a little bit with my wire, so there's that joint. And we're just going to have a nice easy cylinder. We're not giving it shape right now, right? Because I could give it the actual thumb shape if I wanted to, but it's not necessary. Not necessary. All right, so this one should be a little bit easier. Fingers are typically in 3 sections. So we're just going to go ahead and map out those 3 sections. Funnily enough, if you look at your own hand, if you flip your hand around, other than the tips of your fingers, so in reality, let's see if this is his middle finger. So the tip of his finger should be right about there. Index there. The ring and index are approximately the same, so these are actually fine. And then the pinky is underneath this one here, so that's fine too. That's fine. This all works. The reason why I'm kind of doing these little lines real quick here, and let's see how much they match up. I'm curious. Look at that. Oh man, look at that. They pretty much match up too. Beautiful. Regardless though, regardless of trying to be this accurate, just so long as you have two lines that are kind of evenly spaced, we can go from there. Because we all understand, if we look at our hand, our index finger is like the shortest finger, middle is the longest, ring is the second longest, and then pinky is the shortest, if we exclude the thumb. And so when we're making our index finger, right, we're just using a loose rectangle. There we go. Just connect them up. Nice connections. There we go. And so now we know that middle finger here just needs to be a little larger, right? A little larger. Not by much, because if we look at the picture, they pretty much meet up. And so we've definitely emulated this too. But it is going to be a little longer. Not by much, just a little. Alright, so these are just basic shapes. Basic shapes. Ebony says, starting off with partials is actually a good idea, because like you've mentioned, being both Kitsukai and a little human at the same time sort of eases you into it a bit. I think that's, yeah, I get that vibe. Now we have a crossroads. Very small crossroads, but we do have a crossroads. Do we draw this other side? Or do we take our lasso tool, make sure you're on lasso, and go around the arm, edit, copy, edit, paste, and now we're still in selection mode, right? We're still in selection mode. It doesn't look like anything's happened. But if you look over here at your layers, you'll see layer 10 copy. Essentially what we just selected was this arm, and so now we're going to press the square with the dots on it, and we're just going to move it. And now you're saying, well, now you just have two right arms. You can't have two right arms. You need a left arm. Well, too easy. Over here on the left, if you see me circling this, there is what's called a horizontal flip at center of rotation. And basically, what that basically means is just mirror image. So we're going to mirror it. And there we go. Now we have a symmetrical left arm. That's easy. Like I said, when we are working with symmetry, or things that essentially are exactly the same, we don't have to put as much effort into it. And we can make our lives a lot easier. And in fact, I would encourage people to go ahead and draw in symmetry, because it actually takes a lot of workload off of you. And just like you see here, this is 2 cylinders and hands and fingers that I did not have to draw. Now, obviously we have a separate layer, right? So we can blink on and off this arm, or blink on and off this everything that we've done so far. Now, we can work off of the new copy. We can go back to the old copy. To not be so confusing, though, just go ahead and select that first layer that doesn't say copy, so layer 10. Check mark the one above it. So now both of them are selected. Right-click on any of them. Doesn't matter. Right-click on any of them. Go up and go to Merge Selected Layers. And now we have layer 10 again. And we can blink off the whole thing and then just keep continuing to work. And so when we're trying to have symmetrical body parts or whatever, we will continue that process by lassoing, copy, paste, mirror image, merge layers. That's how we do this. That is one way to do symmetry. When we get into the more detailed stuff, I will actually show you the actual symmetry tool, so that way everything you draw, it has a symmetrical side to it. Very cool. I love it. It's good stuff. Alright, so let's kind of take a look again at our guy here. And now, since he's sitting, and his joints should be right about here, right? And then this is his hip. Yes. So let's draw a joint and another joint. There we go. Ebony says, because if you just jump into full body, in most cases it takes a lot longer for you to properly embrace the fursona because you don't see any evidence of your human form at all, which is terrifying, for the first time at least. I bet you it is, especially when you're, now being a stormtrooper and stuff like that, not such a big deal because stormtroopers are humans, right? Or have a full human figure. You're just basically, you can't be claustrophobic. If you're claustrophobic, stormtroopering, heck, even doing fursuits would be very difficult to do. Alright. So, since we have our chest, and as far as like the abs are concerned, we're not really on point with this either, because his chest would probably be a little lower than this, where I have mine at. Who cares, right? It is what it is. But needless to say, we're going to draw some muscles. And this is just simply to help me, belly button there, to figure out the waists and things. So this is essentially his waist. And we, again, curves are everything. Curves are everything. And since waists typically, for this particular body plan, I have a slender waist. So therefore we need to kind of go inwards a little bit like this. If you wanted to draw, and another good thing, even if you draw muscles like this, we could also do a little extra love. So we could do since the belly's right there, essentially, we could do something like, belly's a little chonky, little chonk. We could do that, right? But that's just not my body plan. Ebony says, the simple question, if you're intensely claustrophobic, why the fuck would you join us? Why the fuck would you join us? Probably best to ask that question to the individual. Maybe their fursona conquered claustrophobia, and so long as they are their fursona, they only have like a brief like moment of claustrophobia, like real brief. But once they like feel like they're in their fursona, they're just like, okay, I'm fine now. I don't know. I mean, that could possibly. I'm just rattling off a possibility there. But needless to say, and no, I did forget these lines. These are essentially like a rib line. They go up like this. This actually kind of follows that, and then you have this one here. Yeah. And then you would have your groin area. Let's see here. See if we can get a better idea, because his clothing is obviously layered and stuff too. So let's see. we would probably, this is kind of like more of guesswork than it is actual anatomy, because I don't have a nude figure to actually see where the hip bone. I'm guessing like the hip bone should be somewhere in this area, and so obviously I want to go out away from the hip bone, right? Because that's where it is, and there's skin there, so we have to have some space, and then curl it back around, making that potato again. We like to make potatoes. And then the groin area, again, not too concerned, because we're not going to see any of that. Now, granted, of course, with this figure, because Kitsukai is in the flesh, so to speak, we will have a representation of a groin area, and that's about it. Alright, so now we're going to do those cylinders again. And I can only, you could only guess what kind of line I might be making with these cylinders. So they're going to be fairly big, because they are the legs. And if we look at our dude here, our guy, I mean he's got some thick, thick legs. Man, that's some thick legs. But we don't necessarily need that. And upward, because technically we have a circle, right? A circle. So we will have an upward curve. So if you can just draw a circle every time and just either erase it or just keep in mind how that curve would be, you'll have a successful time of making cylinders going the direction that you need them to go. And then, of course, we have a circle here. Now, this, you could say, is coming towards us, so we would have this area there, so to speak. Since these legs are coming towards us, just like this arm is coming towards us, why I kept a full circle. Same concept. If it's coming towards us, we typically want to see more surface area and an actual cylinder or circle there. Then we draw our joint. And then how these muscles are, right? So technically, we have this conundrum of the calf, right? Because when we lay down, this is kind of how it would be, right? You're going over top of the knee, and then this would be flat because it's flat on the ground, and then your calf muscle would be bulging. Your calf muscle would bulge away from your thigh, because you're essentially squishing your leg is what you're doing. You're squeezing it. But we're not to that point yet. Just kind of, because this might not make sense what's about ready to happen. So I just wanted to kind of show what we're going to be doing, because essentially we are going to have a pass-through cylinder where the cylinder is going to start right here, and it's going to go this way. And so essentially it's going through another cylinder. This is, and the fact that this cylinder is so messed up and it's within other cylinders, and we're not really sure what's on top and what's on bottom, this is an advanced pose. Anytime that you have overlapping cylinders and things like that, you have an advanced pose. This pose here, none of these cylinders overlapped. Even the hand doesn't really count too much when it's laying at the side of the thigh, but everything was able to be separate. These legs are not touching. There's nothing. Everything got to be in its own space. This is not in its own space. And so when we look back at this, right, the cylinder is about right, because here's where that foot starts. So that cylinder looks incredibly short and squatty, and it looks wrong, and it's going to be hard to tell, because Well, me and Ebony and anybody else who's watching this, we know what way he's going. It's going this way, right? It's going this way. We know this. Just like this one's going this way. And then the kneecap is right there. There's a kneecap. I like drawing kneecaps because you need them. You need kneecaps. Gotta have them. When these overlaps happen, we just have to make sure that the muscles interact appropriately with each other. And that's about it. Ebony says the entire concept is escaping from human life and living in as an animal creature after all. So it makes sense that there are a lot of military personnel actually do it to escape their trauma, and social anxious people who do it so they don't directly have to face human people. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The socially awkward, so to speak. Socially awkward. And it can be due to many things, as Ebony had pointed out. Many, many things. It could be any reason. A plethora. So, and then of course we're going to finish off with a joint here. And then let's get our reference back. So really we don't see much of the heel on this. And so we're going to have to kind of guess a little bit, but as we know, the heel is typically behind the calf, and especially if we're hyperextended like this. Just continue that straight line. You don't have to veer off too much. There is a little bend here. And so we drew a heel, and then just continue that triangle, and then essentially a box here that would represent at least, I guess, what is he? If I have my, this would be the big toe. Right there. So that would be the big toe there. Now, seeing this, a difficulty here is, like I said, we could circle this, right, and then make a copy of it. This is a little bit more difficult because, well, we went through a hand, and so, well, how would we do this? How would we transpose this? And since we're just doing things to, what's the word I'm looking for here? Just to get the idea of how things need to look. Kind of just trace, kind of like you make a turkey as a kid. You know how you use your hand as a kid. You made a turkey with your hand. I might be going crazy, but needless to say, just kind of outline your hand there, go around, and then we will edit, copy, edit, paste, and then move that over here, and then mirror image it, line up the joint, because I actually did circle a joint, and so line up that joint, and there you go. Now, one issue that you might see here is that, yes, his toes are technically touching, but these toes are actually like overlapping. So we may need to actually just kind of bring this out a little bit. And that looks better. That looks a lot better. Very strange looking, right? Very strange looking so far. We might need to make some adjustments. This is the thing, like, we're just mapping stuff out right now. The adjustments that I could see here is that we want a little bit more of an angle, because if we really truly see how he's sitting, his lines are more like this, right? So we can fix this. First, we need to merge our layers. There we go, full layer. And now, we're going to do some wild stuff. Wild things are happening. Stay tuned. We're now going to essentially drop his body. To be more in line here. Take the leg. I'm just trying to see a little better. That's why I went out so far. My pen kind of... and then we're going to angle this. Like that. And we also have to keep our build in line too, in mind. Ebony says, the top reasons I've actually heard are, one, just the quote-unquote escape from reality and the joy of escape, like me. Two, the social anxious being free of the anxiety shackles. Three, the side we don't talk about. The side we don't talk about. And four, military personnel who want to escape trauma, like I said. All right. And so with a explaining myself a little bit more. So as we see, the seating position isn't quite right, in my personal opinion, especially for someone with a slimmer build. We're going to have a little bit more of an angle as they sit down. So we're going to go ahead and add that there. Circle this. And move this over here. And is it messy? Yes, it is messy. Like I said, we're just kind of planning things out. Take another look here. And of course, there's going to be a lot of broken lines. A lot of broken lines. It's okay. This, like I said, this is an advanced pose. Something that is just... and it's a pose I've never done before either. So this is the first time I've ever done a Seiza pose. I say it's looking a little better. I'm overviewing, just kind of seeing like, do I want to maybe spread the legs out a little bit more. And again, this is, we're in a cartoon phase too, right? Like nothing has to be exactly anatomically correct. Ebony says, I might have asked this before, but would you ever attempt drawing a furry with my type of legs? I don't believe you've asked it before, but yes, of course. Yeah, no, I don't shy away from anything. And like I said, there's just a lot of logistics that have went into the character creation of Kitsukai. And so, this all just makes sense to me. All right. I kind of like this a little better. I know that we're not quite on anymore, right? It's fine. It's whatever. And the toes aren't touching or anything like that. But again, with more slender individuals, they tend to spread the body parts out a little further to compensate. I don't know how to explain it. I think it makes sense. It makes sense in my head what I'm thinking about. It's just hard for me to actually put it into words. But needless to say, um, putting out more weight out to the sides keep you more stable. I think that's what I'm trying to get at. Versus if you had some heft to you, like I believe this gentleman does, um, he doesn't require, his center of gravity is, like I would say, his center of gravity is right there. Versus my character's center of gravity seems to be up a little higher. And so therefore, since it's higher, in order to lower that center of gravity, we have to spread body parts out further to lower that center of gravity. Like I said, it makes sense in my head, but it might be hard for me to explain. All right, so this is a rough cylinder, rough doll going on this. So we're going to actually redo this again. However, we are going to use that tool I was talking about because, one, I want to show it off, and two, it's a perfect time to do it. So first things first, the previous layer that we've had ghosted in the background there, we're going to drop it to 10%. And then this layer that we've been working on, we're going to take it to 20%. Yeah, that's right, you guessed it. You knew what percentage we're going to. 20%. Make a new layer. All right. Here's where this magic tool comes into play. So over here on the left, now this might be different depending, again, what software that you're doing and whatever the case may be. Over here is a ruler tool. We're going to click the ruler. Now for me, it's already selected, but there's a lot of different rulers that you can use. But we're going to use the symmetrical ruler. Kind of self-explanatory, isn't it? And what this basically does is, at this point, I can't draw anything. I'm actually choosing the middle point of where this symmetry is supposed to come into play. Ebony's like, damn it! I was expecting 35%. Oh, I know. I'm a dream shatterer. I shatter dreams. So as far as what I'm mentioning here, as far as the symmetrical ruler, I can draw a line, right? It's a line tool. And so I can put a line anywhere, and it like cuts my paper all the way across, as you see. Maybe I'll zoom. I don't know if it gets any better if I zoom in, but this line will go across the entirety of the canvas. And essentially now what happens is whatever I draw here on this side, the other side receives the same treatment, right? That's the symmetry tool. Now, we went back a few spaces there, and so we got rid of our ruler, so we have to go back to our ruler again, symmetrical ruler, make sure we got that done. And so now what we're going to do is just kind of pick a middle point, right? Pick a point that we want to just, I think right here. And before we pick our point, though, make sure you are clicking shift, click and hold the shift button, and then draw your line. See how my line stays straight? Or it either goes at a 45-degree angle or a 90-degree angle. And so there we go. And this is where I decided that I want my symmetrical line to be. Ebony says, the Green Day song sequel, it's upgraded from Broken Dreams to Shattered Dreams. There's actually a song called Shattered Dreams. It's an older song. I think it was made in the 80s. And it's one of my favorite songs. One of my favorite songs. If you didn't know, now you know. So now we are going to, on this layer that we just created, as we see, like we're really off center on a lot of things, right? Groin doesn't really match up because this is the middle of the groin. In the middle of the pectorals is fine, but then the head has like a little bit of a tilt to it. in the grand scheme of things, it wouldn't have mattered either way. We would have straightened it out with our details. But needless to say, since again this is a symmetrical figure, using the symmetrical tool will be great. So let's just get started. So as far as making circles with the symmetrical tool, I kind of like to start on the other side and then work my way over, right? And the reason being is because when we start here and we get rid of this line, there's like a gap there. And this is just me being picky, but needless to say, we'll just go ahead and it's fine. Just a nice little circle. More so making an egg. There we go. That's better. That's better. And then we got our neck. As you can see, clearly nothing is lining up anymore. It's fine. Layered sketch artist. That is what I am, a layered sketch artist. I will keep drawing and sketching and drawing and sketching until I am satisfied with the step that I have decided is my step, and I go on to the next step. And basically what we're doing, all we're doing really is cleaning up the cylinder mannequin. That's what we're doing. This is what the whole point of this step is to clean up the mannequin and get things back on track in the way that we want it. And then we're going to proceed to details. It's a little big. There we go. And as you see, I'm completely focused on this side, right? But the same thing is happening on the other side. That's the beauty of this tool. All right. Ebony says, I knew about that one. Released in 1987 and by Johnny Hates Jazz. Johnny Hates Jazz. That's right. Swap sides are a little bit. It's fine. kind of like, I like how this is connecting over here. Let's see. I mean, I could probably bring it up and figure it out, but I also don't want to get muted because it was copyright music. You don't want to have copyright music. I think that's a joke to me. Copyrighting music because you're playing it on a stream. I'm not making money from your music, bro. No one's making money from your music. And in fact, um, that's to me. It's just we that's like free advertising. It's free advertising. Mm. Let's see. Yeah, that'd be about right. Yeah, yeah. Ebony says at this point, if you play even a millisecond of a still copyrighted protected song, you're fucked. Yes, that's correct. Like my very first art stream got muted a lot, but there was apparently some music that was okay. But you know, I'm just gonna take a quick gander. Probably would actually, and now we're about ready to get into more detailed stuff. Um, that's essentially what the symmetrical tool will do for you. So, if you are drawing essentially a symmetrical figure of any sort, I mean, we chop down our time by quite a bit by just doing that. Still, for some reason, let's again this pose I've never done before. I'm pretty much on the money. Hmm. Okay. I'll just simply accept the strangeness of this pose. All right. So now we're going to start going into details. And let's see, it's 9:06 a.m. my time. So I think this is a good stopping point. I have to go to bed here before too long, and I still need to get something to eat and drink. Hopefully, for someone, anybody, that this was educational to some degree, and the pacing of which, of course, doing live stream stuff is the pacing, of course, is going to be slow. Now there are, again, as Ebony had pointed out, there are some artists that do things very quickly, and it's just because they have the idea, the knowledge, so on and so forth, and they just hammer it out and they explain things very quickly, and you don't really know where their mindset is. You don't really know what's going on. And in fact, I just did this. I just did this to you. I obviously went back to this character here, right? Back to our original, and I created a layer, and I did this. Why did I do this? It's because I wanted some sort of relevancy. I wanted to know how much of where these legs are in a box, right? If I were to draw a box, how much does this all fill up, including the waist, so where the belt is? And so I was just like, okay, if that's how this is supposed to look, well, if we translate that over here, how much of my legs fit inside that same box? As we can see, it's pretty much a 1-to-1 ratio. So nothing has actually really changed too much. Once we actually add muscles and things like that to our Kitsukai, my OC, my persona, this may become a little bit more clear. And so we can't give up yet. We can't alter much else at this point because, we just don't know. I'm also in the unknown. This is new for everybody involved. But I like to also do that from time to time because sometimes I feel like, okay, well, this is off or something like that. Clearly, as far as the height of my persona compared to the human representation here, where the legs are at to the head height, obviously a little bit of disparity. We could change this, but I'm also not as muscular as this human is. So it would reason to be, and of course, like I said, I also have a neck that's longer, so we might end ourselves here. It's up and around here, so all up for everything is a variable still at this point in time. Just like I said before, I'm like a blacksmith. I'm just taking a lump of iron, and I am molding it into the sword or the shield or the piece of armor that I'm trying to achieve. Ebony says, "Fair enough. I was trying to pay attention, but of course, still couldn't follow along. But anyways, I guess see you." And the best part about it is I will upload this to YouTube. So if you want to watch this over and over and over again, by all means, you'll have it. So I already have the other two things that I did. I basically have the entire video of the full body static dynamic form here on YouTube, so you can watch that at any point in time. And then once I get a moment, I will download this video from Twitch and upload it to YouTube. My YouTube channel, of course, is linked in Twitch, and if you don't find it for whatever reason, same name My Twitch and my YouTube are the same name, so Samurai Kit Kat. But with that being said, we'll end here for today. We'll continue off maybe tomorrow. It kind of just depends on my work schedule, stuff like that. But we will, of course, continue with making Kitsukai. And Ebony, thank you for joining in the chat and coming in again. I really appreciate you. Your presence is always welcome. And to anyone that watched and didn't say anything, hey, thanks for popping in. And lastly, for anyone on YouTube watching this later on YouTube, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Helps out a lot. And with that being said, your host, Samurai Kit Kat, is out.